I did check out Delta Force Hawk Ops, which is in alpha currently for PC, and is a new game by Team Jade. Haven't heard of them before, but they've swooped in and picked up the Delta Force series, which has been a long dormant shooter series that I played a little of back in the 90s. They sell it a little harder than I think it actually is. It's apparently a 25-year defining the genre. Delta Force is back. And it's like, I don't remember this defining any genre, but they're attempting to do so now with what is essentially an amalgamation of all modern shooters. Running in the alpha is a competitive multiplayer mode and a extraction-style Tarkov Black Ops mode from COD. So there are two modes that are available, and I jumped in to see what it was all about. And it is a highly polished, very well optimized game that basically, as I said, takes a lot of elements from other shooters, particularly the Battlefield series. If you're getting sort of Battlefield vibes, especially 2049, what were they up to? 2042? 2042 vibes. Feels very derivative of that, both in just like the artistic and aesthetic of it, but also in how it plays. As a shooter, it is bombastic. It has the grandioseness of a Battlefield in this multiplayer mode. You're playing the standard hardpoint, or whatever it's called, where you have to take two... Was it called hardpoint? What was it called? Where you take 2 points and move up and then you retreat.
It used to be called Rush, but I think they
thank you.
changed it to something else.
It is Rush. So you've got an attack and a defend, and you move up this beachhead. And it is very, very bombastic, very...
Phallic?
Yeah.
Phallic?
Okay, I wasn't going to say anything.
Chat's calling
sure.
out. We all saw the sack and then the weird little limp head.
Wow.
And then it's bleeding?
I mean,
How?
it's a military shooter, so it's basically
Comes
Phallic.
out.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I checked this out. This wasn't the mode I was actually excited to play as much, but it turned out to be the real winner because the scale of the battles here feel like what 2042 was promising. And Josh, if you pump a little bit of the sound design here, it just really kicks off with a bang. The shooting feels really tight. I actually prefer it to Battlefield. It feels a little more like COD shooting. It's a little more arcadey, a little more ploddy, I guess, is how I would describe it. That's very subjective, but I really, really liked it. And you run around with your, I don't know, I think it was 64 players. There are heroes, or I guess operators was what you'd call them, which was something that the last Battlefield game copped a bit of flack for. People didn't really like that. Usually you had your classes, your medics, infantry, scout. They're still here, but they are in the wrapping of these highly stylized characters, which are going to play into what I believe is a campaign that is coming out. I should mention up top, this is going free to play when it comes out. So
Okay.
I think that is the strongest selling point currently of it. You run around as those operators. There's a little
It's
bit
not
of...
really a selling point, is it, if they're not selling it?
Well, that's what I'm going to get to, because I'm not
Okay.
sure what they're going to sell, and it feels a little sus.
Okay.
But the operators all have a little bit of future war about them. There's a couple of quasi-futuristic abilities. It's not over-the-top Black Ops style crazy mech suits, but it is... there is some stuff in there that I think just pushes the shooter genre, as everyone needs these days. You can't...
Would you say it redefines the shooter genre?
It does, the Delta in the way that only Delta Force can. But yeah, so I played a couple of rounds of this and really enjoyed it. But what I was more interested in keen in playing, Josh, if you don't mind scrubbing to the second half of the footage, was the extraction mode, which is a lot more like your Tarkov. You head in a squad of 3 into these small maps. You run around, you shoot and loot. There's AI littered everywhere, but there are other squads that you're up against. And it is about the minutiae of the loot that you're picking up. It is like PVC plastic pipes, little bits of junk and crap everywhere that you have that big stash, which again, I haven't played Tarkov, but I know people get really into the management of like, you just come out of the matches with a lot of junk. You got all this stuff that you either sell or you use as crafting components or you put it in an auction house. So there's a lot of that I was getting my head around, the way that COD Blackout mode streamlined. This is back to a little bit of that real, I guess you'd call it, yeah, there's the monotony of having to like go through all this gear that you're finding while you're in a high octane shooter map. And I really enjoyed it. I've wanted to play Tarkov, but it's looked too intimidating. This seems like a nice middle ground. I jumped into a match with a couple of other Aussies here. I thought they were bots until they piped up on comms, because there does seem to be a consensus online that they are filling these matches with bots. as human players, both in the multiplayer version and in this extraction mode. There's a lot of gamer tags that just don't quite add up, or all have TTV, Twitch TV, and that aren't actual accounts. Whether or not that's all actually has been proved yet, I'm not sure. But I went to pick up some gear, and an Aussie voice went, "Don't touch that, that's mine." I was like, oh, okay, we're in Australia. So there are people, apparently there's a big player base for this who've picked up codes for it, and the response has been pretty positive. It feels super polished.
It looks so
It's
good for
super
an alpha.
optimized. It loaded in I loaded into this map in 5 seconds from clicking go. It felt, to use your word, sus. I was like, what's going on? This feels like it was made in a laboratory. Like, it doesn't feel real. The company Team Jade are a subsidiary of Tencent. It does feel like this is one of those games being developed by a studio who have just come in and said, let's use all our investment money to just put our stamp on this this market of modern military shooter. I want to say that's a bad thing, but it played really well, and I had a lot of fun with it. And if that free-to-play model comes out without something too predatory in the way it tries to make a profit, whether or not that is buying the campaign, whether or not there is pay to
Imagine.
well.
Oh,
I know, that'd be shocking. But maybe there is a lot of that, maybe there's the paying to fast track a lot of the gear and the upgrades that you can get in between matches. Because there is a lot of it. There is a lot of currency. There's
a lot of the way that I've seen extraction games monetize themselves is by speeding up those cooldown windows and like insurances on weapons and stuff that you take in and all that stuff. Like, I don't love that part of extraction games, like the cooldowns and insuring stuff is weird to me.
Yep.
But it's baked into the genre now in a way that I guess it makes sense that, games need to make money. And if that's what you're monetizing, I kind of understand that. And cosmetic stuff, of course, makes sense to me. But yeah, it's...
the cooldown stuff actually...
And buying a campaign makes sense to me.
That does. And that could be... Oh, here we go. I suddenly realised everyone can talk, so Josh, don't worry about the comms. I panic. But
you're turning the comms off.
No, I look up what's push to talk.
They must not know who I am.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind if that is the way they want to do it. I don't mind that because for me that adds stress and adds impact, knowing that my gear could get lost if I die and don't insure it. And I didn't see that as a mechanic in this.
Okay.
But I'm sure there might be other systems in place. I like that because it is also the kind of the cool off is for me as well. I need the game to be like, I've died, I've lost all my gear. I'm just going to not play the game for a while. So if this is what the game is, plus some bells and whistles that they charge for, I'll be very happy because I like it when it's not necessary to buy those things to enjoy the game. And for the people who really it gets its hooks in, that's fine. They can have that. That we talked about this a bit last week with Zenless Zone Zero. But yeah, if it seems like it's serving the people who want to spend some money, but it's giving the people who don't a game that they can still enjoy, I think this has a lot of promise. And I wouldn't call it a COD killer, but I would definitely say, it's a Battlefield killer because Battlefield's already kind of half dead in its current state. So I wonder if this company is going to come along and just put its foot on the neck and say, we're going to be the new dominant. The Delta Force series is back. But I had a heap of fun. And again, there's been some real positivity online. I like a squad shooter. I'm going to find my little squad and run around and play this and maybe drag some other friends into the bigger Battlefield mode if they're keen.
I'm keen.
They want you to bring their friends along.
Well, that's true.
You could bring 63 friends.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love to play.
I can try.
Yeah, it's.
I don't like war.